Good morning, guys, and welcome to Unique Not Different with me, Shamla. Happy New Year, everyone. And today, the start of this entire 2023, I want to start off with talking about mental health and also bad energy, and things that we would often navigate, the unknown and how we deal with it. So today I have the honor of having Mr. Hanif Benjamin, who is a clinical therapist and clinical traumatologist, to discuss this topic today. So good morning, Hanif. How are you doing?
Good morning, Shamla. Pleasant good morning to you and a happy New Year.
Right back at you. So let's begin, right? Okay, throughout the year, we do things and we meet people, right? And we often meet people with bad energy, right? And that drains us. And these people that cling on people who are empathetic, right? How do we detect persons with bad energy? And what do we do to navigate to not be so empathetic towards these persons?
So what I'm hearing here, you call it bad energy, but what I refer
Yes,
to it as is positive and negative emotions.
right,
We all have positive and negative emotions, and we're not aware when we are, exuding this positive or negative emotion. But whatever it is, it affects the people around us, and most times because of what we are dealing with, in some instances, the negative emotion is what really follows us, or in colloquial term, the bad energy or bad vibes. And that carries in and of itself because we are emotional beings. And therefore, if you are around someone who is constantly negative, or their energy or their emotion is always negative, it will affect you unless you, one, pay attention to the energy that is flowing towards you. Two, you understand what it means, whether it is directed to you or it is just in the environment. And once you have identified those two things, you begin to work towards it. For example, there are people in our midst who might be dealing with the negative emotion, but it's not towards you. But because we are emotional, we take it on as if it is ours. And sometimes our emotion then changes to suit the negative emotion that is surrounding us. And that is why sometimes we just have angry people, people who just negative in the environment constantly.
right. And in terms of, okay, so in terms of the family structure, work environment, and stuff like that, right? We have to, you know, encounter these people. Sometimes we may not be in a situation to get out of this situation, right? In general, how how do we kind of put up a barrier on ourselves in general to deal with these people? And also in terms, this is two questions in one, in terms of, let's say, the family structure, right? We often go through traumatic change immediate throughout the year. How do we deal, or how do we, you know um think about, okay, something is going to happen, should we think about it in order to help us deal with sudden changes?
So I'm hearing two things there. So let me deal with the former. When you spoke about
Yeah.
putting up barriers, I don't believe in barriers, right? Barriers are constantly, they're gonna keep us, one, in the same place that you are constantly, right? A barrier is tend to just be around you. It doesn't change what is going on in and around your social environment. So what I prefer rather than building barriers is to understand what is going on and develop coping mechanism or changing mechanism. A lot of psychologists, social workers, clinicians always talk about developing coping mechanism, but I like to talk about the developing changing mechanism, because we could develop coping mechanism to deal with bad situation every day, but it means that we're just going to be tired just trying to deal with the same situation over Rather, I help people to develop changing mechanism where you change your circumstance, even if you are living within your family. I tell people your mental health is of paramount importance, and I want 2023 for all people to understand that their mental health should be taken most important above everything else. And it means changing your circumstances, one, by understanding what you are dealing with, understanding the people in your social environment, and making the necessary changes to protect your own mental health as opposed to building a barrier. Because people could still infiltrate a barrier. But if you change from inside out, no matter how many arrows that is coming at you, you will be able to deflect, you will be able to move, you will be able to dance the guide because you have dealt with the issue. The problem, Shamla, is a lot of us tend to just marinate in the issue and develop coping mechanism. No, I don't want to cope with your toxic ways. I want to get rid of your toxic ways. And if I cannot get rid of your toxic ways, I am going to change how I approach the circumstance to ensure that your toxicity does not permeate within me. That is what we should be building in 2023. And when you talk about the trauma, I hear him thumping in the studio, right? I hear him thumping in the studio. When you talk about family trauma, this is something that is deeper and requires us to really have a deeper conversation, because I believe that this is what is keeping us where we are. This is what continues to deteriorate our family structure, because we have trauma. Sometimes the trauma is the very family that you are living with. And until you begin to deal with this, then and only then can the family pulls itself out of the challenges that they find themselves in. You see, so the first thing again is recognizing that we are living with trauma. A lot of people ask, well, what do you mean we are living with trauma? You have to understand when there is a change in your situation, your circumstances, whether it is eating, sleeping, how you go about your daily life, how you go about taking care of yourself. Those are some of the basic things that may change in your environment. But you recognize what it is, you recognize who it is, and deal with it pointedly. Because of family, we always dance around the situation. In 2023, we're not doing that. You treat with things head on. Because, again, if you don't, all you're doing is building those barriers, and anybody could infiltrate a barrier.
And if you mentioned that, building those barriers, right? But as humans, it is hard. So we need specialists like you, right? And we need specialists. So is it that therapy is still a taboo in Trinidad? And is it accessible to persons who are middle and lower income?
And so mental health in and of itself remains a taboo subject, albeit in Trinidad and Tobago, I believe that we have moved a little in recognizing and understanding the importance of mental health. I do not believe that we have done so sufficiently where as a society we can tackle mental health frontally. I still believe that mental health access is a difficulty for many. Whether it is in our public health system or private, because mental health treatment, there is a cost privately. And so when you talk about lower and middle income, I believe that there is still a disparity between who can access mental health. And if you can, how long? Because we are still, our laws are archaic. The way we see it, the insurance industry to cover insurance is still lagging behind. And so I'm making 2023 my year of declaration on the legislation and also the insurance industry. We have to change how we see and treat it. And in order to make mental health accessible for all, we must change the law. And in changing the law, we will then change the policy for insurance industry so that more people, you see, Shamla, we still use a medical model where you need a psychiatrist, who is the only one who is seen as the person who can, treat mental health. Albeit there are so many mental health practitioners, from clinical therapists to psychologists to all manner of people, that is not recognized under law. And therefore, if we change the law and we change the insurance, then more people can access. And more importantly, I've often said this in 2022, the Minister of Health has indicated that there are 109 plus health centers. We need to make mental health treatment in all
Yes.
centers accessible to all people. That should be our first line of defense. And it helps to break down the barrier because listen to this. When you go in a health center and you sit with people who come for the big toe, the head, the eye, nobody knows what you come for. So therefore, there is no shame in going to a mental health clinic and therefore removes the taboo as well. So those are some things that we need to work on seriously if we are to open up how and where people receive treatment for mental health.
I know that mental health affects your physical health. That I know for a fact. It definitely affects your physical health. So, in closing, is there any advice you would like to give persons um, going through this year in general?
So definitely, I mean, there is no health without mental health, right? Again,
Yes.
the insurance industry covers the physical health, not understanding that a lot of it is tied to our mental health. In 2023, I want people to begin to take mental health serious. I want people to understand that we are affected by our social environment, whether we want to or not. Our country is in a difficult period, and we need to maintain our mental health in order to keep productive, to keep sane. And therefore, let us take 2023 to be a year where we take care of our own mental health and the people around us.
Mr. Benjamin, I want to say thank you so much for coming and sharing, your profession. And you definitely will hear from me soon. And thank you, and I wish you a prosperous new year and all the best, in getting this into the Insurance Act and so on. So thank you again, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Shamla. You know,
So
anytime you call, I'll answer the call. Be safe, be blessed, and have a wonderful new year.
same to you. And guys, with that being said, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in to this week's segment of Unique but Different. Until next week, be good, do good. Bye, guys.